It's been a while since I've done my public access TV show, Political Chowder, and I have to tell you that I miss it terribly. But I want to start with a story for you because I remember I've done both kinds of television. I've done commercial paid television and I've done community TV. And I have to tell you the story about the last time I did paid television. I had my own show every night, call-in show on WCMY. We had a growing audience. It was about 6 months into my contract, and we had to start talking about renewing and what my real salary was going to be. And there had been a little bit of tension between me and my producer. Tension's kind of a nice word. Anyway, I walk in, and the news director says to me, "We love your show, Arnie. We think you're great. We want to double your salary." And then he says, "But there's a little provision in the contract that I want to inform you of." I said, "Yes." He said, "You will have no input into content." I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "You said you loved my show? You want me? And you want me to sign a contract that says I have no input into the content of my show? Arrivederci." And I left. Now, that took a little bit of guts. But what it also meant was I was probably blacklisted because I'm not easy to work with. If not easy to work with is making sure all the voices in the community are heard, then I'll never be easy. If not easy to work with is to make sure that the whole spectrum of opinions and ideas are brought to a community, that I'm not easy to work with. And what's the beauty of community TV? I think one of the things you need to do to explain to people that don't understand what you do is to list all the voices and all the personalities that you have met and interviewed and described and told their stories to your community. I like public television and I like public radio, but I can name the 25 people that they have on all the time, 12 months of the year. You have 220. You have found voices they didn't even know existed. You found personalities and talents they didn't even know were there. If there is a reason to celebrate free speech, it's why you exist. Because there isn't free speech on commercial television. There isn't free speech on cable television. There's acquired speech. And what you do is celebrate the life around you. And that is so important. And you also make connections. So let me just share with you what I'm doing now. I'm doing a variation on community access TV. I'm doing community radio. I do it 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Nobody gets paid a dime. We all do it because we love our community and because we're so desperate for them to know. So let me just share one quick story because this is the same kind of story that Doris will know happened on our Political Chowder show all the time. We made connections on the TV, or we made connections on the radio, and we knew, oh my God, we got to make sure everybody knows about this, because it wasn't about filling the hour. It was about celebrating the ideas and celebrating the knowledge. So let me tell you what happened just this week on my community radio station. We interviewed a Republican named Bob Bastani. Anyone know Bob Bastani? Remember Bob Bastani? Bob Bastani ran as a Republican in the 1st Congressional District. He ran for Congress, I think against a guy named Ginta at one time. Anyway, so we had Bob Bastani on the air because I wanted to talk to Bob Bastani because I knew he was an international finance genius. And I wanted to know about the EU and the meltdown in China. So I figured I'd call this local guy to come on and talk to us. So we had this fabulous conversation, and afterwards he taped it and he sent it to all his friends and said, "I just love talking with you, Arnie." The next half hour, we interviewed someone about alternative energy. It happened to be a local guy named Ken Coburn, but we were talking about this group out in California called Sun Run that has this amazing idea on how to get solar panels on everybody's roof at hardly any cost. So we had this amazing conversation about this alternative energy, and then here's what happened that night. That night, Bob Bastani sends me a note and says, "I always love talking to you. I really miss Political Chowder." I said, "Thanks." He said, "But I need to let you know what I'm doing now, Arnie." I said, "Sure, what are you doing?" He said, I'm running a $70 billion alternative energy fund for the Department of Energy. I went, a $70 billion fund? And then I'm thinking, Sunrun, alternative energy, solar panels. I said, have you heard of these guys? I called the guys in California. I called Bob Bastani. I said, you two have to meet. And then I sent him the half hour about Sunrun, and then sent them the half hour about the alternative energy guy. And maybe we made a marriage. But guess what? Where did it happen? On a place like what you do. Because it's not about the money. It's about the love of our community. And I'm going to end with this wonderful quote. We do it because we all have egos. Trust me. And Calvin Coolidge understood our egos. And Calvin Coolidge once said that patriotism means looking after yourself by looking after your country. That's what you do at Community TV. You look after your community, you look after yourself, and you look after your country. I can't thank you enough. And you can't disappear, because the moneyed interests control what people learn and hear and see. What you celebrate is the rest of life. So thank you.